Welcome back into Talking Fitchburg. Join me, Dave, from the Fitchburg Historical Society. Got Catherine Schneider here. Catherine, welcome back to the show. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm doing very well, Jeremy. Thank you.
And thank you for joining me. And today we're going to be talking about roads. And some people are going to be like, oh, no, not more road construction. No, 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 no. We're actually talking some of the history here of the roads in Fitchburg, but really going back here, Catherine. So set us up. What are we talking about today?
Okay, well, first of all, I'd like to acknowledge the story I'm going to be telling today about an early road in Fitchburg is taken from uh, the book by Thomas Kenny, which is Irish Settlers in Fitchburg, well-researched and written book. So the story comes from there. So this is about one of the earliest roads in Fitchburg that no longer exists. And just the background is the lead mining in southwestern Wisconsin, of course, attracted a lot of pioneers. The Native Americans were the first lead mining in that, did the first lead mining in that area, but then followed by Welsh and Cornish and Irish coming in to do the mining and by the 1820s. So towns like New Diggings and Platteville and Mineral Point, of course, get their names from those rich lead mines around their towns. So the lead was used making products like paints and pipes and bullets, so pretty important product. So the question was how to get them to market, how to get that lead ore to market as efficiently as possible. So much of it was shipped on steamboats going down the Mississippi River and then to the East Coast. And then they had processing plants in New York and Boston and Great Britain even. Well, by 1836, some of the mine owners were looking for quicker and cheaper routes to get their product to those plants, processing plants. So overland seemed to make sense, and doing that by canvas covered wagons, and those would be pulled by like 4 to 6 or 8 oxen. And across southern Wisconsin to Lake Michigan, and then they would be shipped out from Lake Michigan through the Great Lakes. And then Buffalo, New York actually was one of their ports of entry then to be processed there into white lead used for paint. So the return trip then they made, and then they brought back dry goods back into Wisconsin territory at that point, and immigrants. So it all made sense, this transportation system. So what did Fitchburg have to do with that? Well, there were several routes that were built through south central Wisconsin that were used to transport the lead, and one of them crossed through Fitchburg. And this route probably came in between about 1839, 1841. So we're talking 190 years ago or so, a long time ago. So 1839, interestingly enough, was a dry year, and it lowered the level of the Mississippi River. So it made it difficult to navigate the boats with lead. And so the Mineral Point Teamsters were looking for a route to Milwaukee with the fewest inclines and then water crossings. So they, because they were paid by the shipment and they preferred routes with fewer obstacles, obviously. So the topography of Fitchburg is it's located actually on pretty high ground and separates two watersheds. It's the Yahara River to the east and then the Sugar River to the west. So this minimized the problems for crossing the rivers and the marshlands with those heavy wagons. So maps aren't really available to show the entire route of that lead road, but later maps show parts of it, and then there's oral tradition, and then there's still some ruts left from the wagons in some places, in a few places, so it helps kind of piece together that route. So from Mineral Point, the wagons followed what's now Highway 18151 into Verona, and then they headed over Nesbitt Road, and then southeast to avoid the four lakes, Mendota, Monona, Waubesa, and Kegonsa in central Dane County. And then the lead wagons entered Fitchburg, likely around the intersection of Lacey and Fitchrona roads. After going around the north end of there's Goose Lake in the township of Verona, they have to go north of that to avoid Goose Lake. So then after they crossed at Lacey and Fitchrona roads, where they are now, of course, they didn't exist then. Then they crossed where Grandview Road is now to Seminole Highway, and then continued southwest to meet where Fish Hatchery Road and Adams Road are now, where that intersection is. Then there was a resting stop and place to water horses and oxen known as Swan Pond, and that was located at the south of the intersection of Fish Hatchery Road and County M. So this was the exit point from Fitchburg for the lead trail. And then it continued its journey toward Oregon and eventually to Watertown and then to Milwaukee. Well, the physical evidence of that trail is now virtually gone. And the reason for that is because it ran diagonally through Fitchburg. The farmers, of course, always want their fields to be square and rectangular. So the roads then that were put into Fitchburg ran north, south, and east and west. So that trail was no longer possible through there, with the roads running in those directions over those 6 square miles of what was then the township of Fitchburg. Um, so the other change that took place that meant the end of the lead trails was the coming of the railroads in about the 1850s. So that provided, of course, faster and cheaper transportation of goods than wagons drawn by oxen. So thus the lead trail has faded into history. But I think it makes a fascinating story that we had this trail that used to run through the township of Fitchburg and brought the iron ore from southwestern Wisconsin, the western part of the state, early on, um, right through Fitchburg, and then on to Milwaukee, through the Great Lakes, over to the East Coast. So Fitchburg had an important part to play in that early mining history of the state of Wisconsin.
Yeah,
So
it's something great information. Thanks for sharing. It's something to believe, to think of that down at Fitrona and Lacey and Seminole. You would have to think, and I would think going back because you grew up here, just thinking of like some field roads or something. Granted that obviously the farmers did had to farm and everything, but it'd have been interesting, thinking back to when you were growing up, thinking of any of the farm roads that were going between the fields or anything like that, if potentially that you could have walked on that, or you could have been been near that, but still a major through as far as Fitrona and Lacey goes, and really the 1851 going back to Mineral Point and stuff. I just think of all those hills once you get to Mineral Point and stuff, but wow, what a story.
I think it's pretty fascinating. And then to know that intersection of also Fish Hatchery Road and M now was sort of a way station with Swan Pond down there. And now those roads are still a major intersection. And if you notice, the water is still there. So if you're driving through there at some point on the road, check the south end there and you'll see the pond where we used to stop. There used to be a hotel there. As travelers came through there, it was known that intersection is a hall. So another further, just interesting history of that very intersection, how prominent it was and still is in our transportation system in Fitchburg and beyond.
Yeah. Well, Catherine, thank you so much for sharing and great information. If people want to learn more about the things that you guys have going on at the Historical Society, where can they find you?
Oh, yes, and our website, of course, fitchburghistory.org. And I was going to say the book that I got this information from is also in the Fitchburg Library, so uh, could be could be accessed at the library. So lots of other great stories in there too. We have a wonderful history, rich heritage to celebrate in Fitchburg.
We certainly do. Catherine, thank you so much for sharing today. And just like this and other interviews, we got them all posted up online. And same with the Historical Society. You can check out their YouTube page and catch these great interviews. Catherine, stay safe out there. We'll look forward to checking back in with you next month.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. Take care.
And you as well. I'll take a quick break. More to come. You are watching Talking Fitchburg.